Have you ever just stared out at the ocean and wondered what's really down there in those deep, dark, unexplored places? Well, for centuries, we've filled that darkness with tales of monsters. And today, we're going to meet the real thing. So let's just jump right in with a wild thought. What if sea serpents were real? I mean, not just a spooky story sailors told, but a real, living, breathing animal that got the whole legend started. I mean, try to imagine it. You're on a little wooden ship, you're miles from anywhere, and then this thing surfaces next to you. Something so huge, so bizarre, it just doesn't make any sense. These are the kinds of stories that have been told for generations, you know? Stories of pure awe and, honestly, terror. Okay, so to really get to the truth, we have to start with the myth. Let's dive into section 1, Monsters of the Sea. You know, what's so wild is how similar all these sightings were. You had sailors all over the world who'd never met, all describing the same thing, this long, snake-like body way out in the deep ocean, and you only ever got a quick, terrifying glimpse of it. Yeah, you can see how that would start a few legends, right? But what if those sailors weren't just seeing things? That brings us to our next section, the real serpent. And this is the moment. This is the question that turns a spooky story into a science investigation. Because it turns out those sailors were seeing something real. It just wasn't a monster. It was a fish. But a fish unlike anything they had ever seen before. And here it is. Meet our culprit, the oarfish. This is a super elusive deep-sea fish that just so happens to match the description of a sea serpent almost perfectly. Scientists are pretty sure this is the real deal behind one of the ocean's biggest mysteries. So how big are we talking? Well, the largest oarfish that has ever been officially measured clocked in at a staggering 56 feet. Let that sink in, 56 feet. Just to give you some perspective, that is longer than a city bus. Seriously. Now imagine a city bus swimming next to your boat in the middle of the ocean. You'd think you were seeing a monster too. I mean, who wouldn't? And if you're thinking its size is the strangest thing about it, oh, you are in for a treat. The truth is way, way weirder. Which brings us to our next part, a fish like a lizard. Okay, this is where the story gets absolutely wild. The oarfish has this defense mechanism, this little survival trick, that is pretty much unheard of in the entire animal kingdom, especially for an animal this big. We all know how a lizard can drop its tail to get away from a predator, right? It's a classic move. Well, the oarfish does the exact same thing, but it's not just its tail. When this fish feels threatened, it can shed the entire back half of its body. I'm not kidding. It just lets it go, and the front half swims away like it's no big deal. It's a totally shocking, but apparently very effective way to survive. So, let's recap. We have an impossibly long creature that can literally break itself in half to get away from danger. When you put all that together, you get our final thought here. Myth and a masterpiece. And this is really the whole point. The oarfish isn't some monster from a nightmare. It's a masterpiece of evolution. It's the perfect reminder that sometimes the truth, the weird, unbelievable reality of life down there in the deep, is so much stranger and more amazing than any story we could ever invent. So the next time you hear an old legend about some monster, just remember the oarfish. And remember that behind the myth, there might be a truth that's even more mind-blowing. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other myths are just waiting down there in the dark for us to finally find their incredible real-life explanation?